Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a little while. It's been a wild ride since like January 20th, to say the least. I know it's been a little while for an episode. Since that last episode, I've gotten really sick and I have a staph infection in my leg, which is really awful. And maybe worst of all, I actually own a pair of Crocs right now, and I have to admit that I love them. They are awesome. And there is also a fascist buffoon destroying the country that I live in. So this episode, it's basically it's meant for everybody, but there is a little, I guess, overarching line of a little bit of a, I guess, trying to talk to people that I know. So there's a little bit of a personal thing in here too, as well. Uh, Especially, I guess, for people who do not agree with me, right? Who don't think that what's going on right now is absolutely horrible. Or people who just set it aside for their own comfort. So, welcome to Trump 2.0, the birthing of a new American Reich. The way I see it, we are on the brink of real, actual fascism in this country. And I am not using that term loosely, in my opinion. I know that the definition can be a little slippery sometimes. And even if you reject that particular adjective, I think that most people can agree that we are certainly headed to some sort of right-wing hellscape, whatever, you want to call it, whatever term you think best describes it. But I am going to use the term fascism, fascist, fascistic throughout this episode. And I'm not going to feel bad about it at all. So let's start first on the economic side. We are losing an absolutely absurd trade war, a tariff war, which is basically the United States against the entire world. I told you multiple times in this podcast leading up to the election that Donald Trump does not understand how tariffs work. I still believe that. I think he is literally that stupid. Or I don't even know what the other option is. Is he a tariff genius and is just applying them wrong for what reason? Right, just to crash our own economy. It makes no sense. I just think that he's a buffoon. So he started this trade war with the tariffs. He has crashed the stock market. I guess you could say it's crawling back up over the past week, but I suspect it's going to start going down again very soon as we really start to feel the effects of what's going on in the ports. He has materially hurt everyone in this country. Well, almost everybody, not the already ultra wealthy, but all the regular people that you know, all the working class, all the middle class, all the poor people, they're all being wrecked by this economy, both right now and later on when they want to retire. I personally, I'm 48, and let's see, 2008, right? The crash, it took 6 years to recover. COVID took several years to recover. This will take however long it takes to recover. I'm that many years behind in my own retirement, right? You can never get those years back. I mean, he even promised to lower the egg prices as soon as he got into office, and egg prices still keep going up. All of this because he truly is a moron. President Xi of China, hallowed be his name, is currently dog-walking Trump across the global economic stage and showing what a proper government, what proper leadership, what strong leadership, what intelligent leadership, and what actual will and actual strategy are capable of. The United States just has sort of bent itself over a barrel and started spanking its own, pink, pimply ass. And China just kind of watched, laughed, and they are winning by doing basically nothing but saying, no, we aren't going to do that. And because of that, xenophobes all across the country, all across the world probably, are losing their collective minds because they cannot comprehend that the United States can lose. They can't comprehend that China can win. They don't understand that China actually has power. They don't understand that Trump is a bloviating baboon. And they don't understand that the United States can, in fact, lose. All this despite my entire life, the United States racking up L after L after L. So right now, West Coast ports are quite slow. There are not a lot of ships going into them. There are not a lot of containers left on the docks. The LA port, which is the busiest in the nation, is doing business at a rate consistent with what they normally do on Thanksgivings and Christmases, which are the two slowest days of the year by far. It's the time when they're basically on a super skeleton crew and only working the things that absolutely have to be moved. And it's the same at all the West Coast ports from Seattle down to San Diego. And these ports on the West Coast are hopefully, obviously, the first ones that will really feel a crunch coming from China. When ships stop leaving Asia, the first place that they're heading, as far as when it comes to the United States, obviously, is the West Coast. And even the port out here in Boston is looking very empty, and there's lower ship traffic going into it. The ships that are landing, or not landing, sorry, the ships that are picking up in China and Asia, they're even bypassing loads coming here because there are so few containers to bring over that it's just not worth it for them to stop, pick them up, and then come here and stop and drop them off. It's not worth the time idling their engines and at the dock when they could be making more money. So they're just driving right past the United States. And that's even with a lot of companies have just completely stopped shipping anything at all to the United States. And if you don't quite understand what it means for these massive trade ports, these seaports, to be empty of containers and empty of ships, I can guarantee you that in about 2 weeks, you're going to start, maybe even a week now, because I put this recording this off a little bit for my notes. But maybe a week from now, you're going to start noticing that things just aren't there. And with the lead time, I believe it's like a 6-month lead time usually from big companies like Walmart. I don't even, who else has, Target, like Walmart, Target, they place orders to China, and it takes something about 6 months from the time they place the order. It gets made, packed in China, loaded on containers, shipped here, unloaded, makes it to a warehouse, and goes to stores. It's about 6 months. In about 6 months, those stores are going to start to be very empty. Now, this is what happens, I guess, when you start thinking that you've got like the big swinger in the room, right? And then China walks in and they drop with like a resounding thud on the table, a 25-pound sledgehammer that just puts your little jeweler's hammer to shame. It just ruins your whole day. It ruins your whole week. It ruins your whole year. But China's winning. The U.S. is losing. That's how simple it is. And on just to tack on to the port thing on a somewhat personal level, for everybody who doesn't know, I'm a truck driver. So everybody other than the longshoremen who work the docks, who unload the ships and load the containers onto trucks, the first people who are going to really feel what's going on are the truck drivers, long-haul truckers, and every trucker who serves these ports locally. Now, I drive a truck, but I don't do long-haul stuff, and I don't service a port. I drive around Massachusetts and Connecticut, and I deliver stuff, pick stuff up. And right now, truckers are already being left without loads. They're going to places like LA, Seattle, Boston to drop things off. And they're being forced to deadhead to drive empty with no pay, sometimes 1,000 miles or more to get their next load. This is just will absolutely crush owner operators, people who own their own truck and do their own bidding for loads and, paying off their own leases. It's just absolutely going to crush those businesses, all those small business owners. So every single long haul trucker, like literally every single one of them, whether they deal directly with containers or not, and every port based trucker will feel the pain as rates drop through the floor for their freight because there's just not enough for everybody. Opportunities for work will fall off a cliff. And all these trucker for Trump dipshits will find out what fucking around with a fascist personality cult really leads to. Our leader in the United States is perhaps the world's dumbest fascist, and this isn't a good situation. He's also, I think it's important to note, supported by the most subservient, obsequious, servile, weak-minded pieces of human garbage to ever be gathered together. They're more than happy to placate the fascists in charge so long as they get themselves a little personal power, a little personal wealth, and their own, I guess, power within the regime. After all, every single Hitler needs their own Goerings, Himmlers, Gorings, and Funks, right? They all need the supporting cast, and Trump has his. And these groveling toadies are more than happy to destroy both the government and the society which it's supposed to support if it brings them more power, more wealth, and more recognition. So because of these sniveling cowards, people like Rubio, Hegseth, Gabbard, who else? Nome, people like that, the Sieg-heiling, birth rate and eugenics-obsessed loser that we call Elon Musk. Because of them, we are in a situation where people are being black-bagged, kidnapped, and human trafficked into what are basically little more than gigantic concentration camps in a foreign country, El Salvador. Please do not say that these people have been deported. They have not been deported. Deportation is illegal. It's a legal process that contains within it due process. And you, without going through that, you're not being deported. You are just being kidnapped and trafficked. So this is just straight up kidnapping and trafficking. Please don't refer to it as deportations. And of the people who have been deported, see, I just did it. See how easy it is? Of the people who've been kidnapped and trafficked, we've seen at least 70% and maybe as high as 95% of those trafficked into the Sikhat concentration camp. They have zero criminal record. At least one is admitted to have not even supposed to have been sent there. Something which this fascist administration openly admits to, and they will not even try to bring him back. That man's name is Kilmar Obrego Garcia. The man who the government admitted in court was not supposed to be sent to Sikhat. He was sent there due to clerical errors, yet they simply won't have him returned. They'll just kick their feet up, and they'll wait for that man to rot along with all of the others. And just to be clear, even if any of these people, any of them, and again, something like 95% of them had no criminal record at all in this country, but even if they had been guilty of, I don't know, each of them had murdered 100 people. If they were all robbers and violent assaulters and rapists, it wouldn't matter. You should not be sending people even with criminal records. You should not be trafficking them to a foreign concentration camp, let alone sending people like Andre Hernandez Romero, who's a gay makeup artist who has tattoos but is not in a gang. It would, even if the people were guilty of all these horrible, horrible crimes I just listed, it still would be a repugnant act. It would be a national embarrassment. It'd be a travesty to see this happen. So where, my friends, do y'all stand on that? Are you okay with this? Why? Do you think that you'll be safer? Is it because of some dumb, stupid ass idea about, like, well, they're technically illegal? And man, if that's it, that's just some inhumane sickness deep inside of you. It's just a sickness. Like, do you really think that trafficking humans with no criminal record into what are essentially slavery and death camps, do you think that will make you safer? All because, and supported, I guess, all because of some 18th century legal argument. Does that really connect for you guys? If it does, it's just some like law-brained nonsense. It's the sort of soft-brain thinking that lets people justify using shitty, unconstitutionally invoked 18th century laws to deport at will. It's not the big brain stance that you think it is. Not at all. And the prison that these people are being sent to is called CCOT. It's a massive complex which claims to be an anti-terrorism prison. CCOT can hold 40,000 prisoners with 70 people per cell. While in this prison, the people there are not allowed to have visitors, are never outside, have zero recreation at all, and the lights are never turned off. CCOT has no education, no classes, no workshops, no way at all to rehabilitate people, to prepare these people for going back into society. People are expected to die there. Instead, they put them into slave labor clothing factories so that they can work to death. People are being kidnapped off of American streets and sent to a massive concrete hellhole, a plantation slave labor camp in another country. This is not something that we should be okay with. Where do you stand on this particular brutality? The Trump regime has begun arresting judges for protecting people from these kidnappings and trying to see that they receive fair trials. ICE pigs are busting into courtrooms to arrest people moments after a judge has literally dropped all charges against them. These state fascist thugs are actually camping out in courthouses and harassing and arresting any non-white people that they see in clear contradiction of civil and legal norms. We don't typically like to do stuff like this in this country because we want people, whether they're here with documents or not, we want them to be able to talk to the police. It's why we don't have local police rounding up immigrants. Because we want immigrants, we want everybody in the community to be able to go to the police and report crimes. We want them to be able to go to a courthouse and answer for crimes. We want them to be able to go to a courthouse and talk to somebody about people who are hurting them, people that things that they need help with, right? The courthouse should be a place of, I don't know, is amnesty the right place? Where you should be able to go in, talk to people, get help, and go home. You shouldn't have to worry about being arrested trying to go to a court date. Only absolutely fascist thugs would prevent people from entering courthouses out of fear that those people might actually have a good case and have charges dropped. Where do you stand when it comes to this particular destruction of our society? Where do you stand? We are seeing organized labor get destroyed like we said it would right here on this channel. We had a whole video about Project 2025 and labor. The game plan from 2025 is what they're running step by step. We are seeing children as young as 4 years old forced to defend themselves in deportation hearings because Trump defunded the people that helped the children in these circumstances. That was Doge doing their own awful work, right? They probably think that helping children in deportation hearings is fraud, waste, or abuse, right? That's what that fascist Elon Musk is doing with his position in power. Like full-ass adults who are immigration lawyers themselves should not represent themselves in immigration hearings. Lawyers shouldn't even represent themselves, and we have children doing it. We have children, 4, 5, 6 years old, playing with tops and pinwheels and cuddling dolls as judges speak to them like they're adults who understand what's going on. And then they get deported. As of right now, there have been at least 3, and I know that my notes here that I'm looking at are from probably about 5 days ago. But as of then, and I haven't noticed anything since then, at least 3 children who are full citizens of this country have been deported, one of whom was undergoing cancer treatment, stage 4 cancer treatment. All of them are age 7 and younger. If this is okay, then this is a very deeply sick society. Where do you stand on that? We see naked imperialist aggression out of the Trump regime. Herr Trump has been floating the idea of taking Greenland by whatever means necessary, he says. One, annexing Canada somehow, right, as a 51st state. But of course, he also added they won't be able to vote on anything, right? They'll just be a territory, I guess. They are talking about taking the Panama Canal back and the whole Panama Canal zone, and even open war with Mexico. The Trump regime and most of the politicians in both of our major political parties are fully in support of an open, obvious, and ongoing ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. And they are openly supporting it both with money, with rhetoric, and with actual material and weapons. They are helping to extend the genocide, expand the genocide, and supply the genocidal state with the weapons it needs to do it. Where do you stand on that? We are seeing people, in particular students who are here entirely legally, being kidnapped by state thugs and deported for doing nothing more than exercising their free speech. That is, by definition, the state persecuting people for speech, a clear and obvious attack on the First Amendment. And yes, literally anybody standing in the United States, they are covered by the Constitution. They enjoy all of the rights that I do, me being born here. So if you're about to make the argument that, like, well, they aren't citizens, it's wrong. They're covered anyway. We are now in an era where ICE agents have been directed by the Department of Justice to, without a warrant, break into people's homes, search for, in their words, illegal immigrants, and arrest them. And they were advised to do this anywhere in the country in an effort to find undocumented people to arrest. This is a direct attack on the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution. Where are all of my conservative and centrist folks who just worship the Constitution at right now? They are not out in the streets. They're supporting this. They're quiet. Where do they stand? Do they stand up and scream, or do they remain silent? I think we can all not hear where they're going with this. Of course, they stay silent. Because, to be honest with you, they're all white people. They're unaffected by this. Yes, my friend circle, the people who I know who are watching this, they're 95% white. Yes, I do think that matters. They don't care because so far it has not affected them or anybody that they know directly. And speaking of constitutional amendments, let's talk about the Second Amendment. Where are all of my Second Amendment people at? Right? The people who always told me the reason why we have these guns isn't because I'm sexually attracted to them. It's not because I'm some weird loner loser who just likes to feel powerful. It's not like to show off how much money I have. It's not to feel cool. You know, when I put on my body armor and I go down to the shooting range and shoot cans and pretend that they're terrorists or whatever. No, they always tell me that they have all of these guns to protect themselves and other people from a tyrannical government. Right? Because without the Second Amendment, according to them, no other rights are worth the paper that they're written on. I mean, do they believe it or not? Because right now, the First and Fourth Amendment are under heavy attack, and they just sit on their hands. Right? Like, where are you gun people at? Right? You Elmer Fudd looking ass losers are just sitting around pointing your guns, what, at queer people? Mexicans? They aren't hurting you. Right? The government's stomping on your rights. What are you going to do? And, you know, like the government is rolling back the rights that you swore that you're going to defend with your guns. And you're just at home watching TV, right? Watching Fox News, cheering it all on. I mean, I think everybody else knew that, you know, you Al-Qaeda dudes, you weren't going to do anything but lick fed pig boots when the time came, but it's still hilarious to watch it happen in real time. Instead of fighting a fascist, tyrannical government, you're just letting the same people who are stepping on our rights, those same people are convincing you that the real problem, as they arrest people for speaking, as they kick in doors unconstitutionally without warrants, they're convincing you that the real danger is, you know, Jose trying to cross the Rio Grande. And you believe them. They're telling you, you know, that there's an ISIS caravan walking through Guatemala and you get all, you know, exercised and upset about it. Meanwhile, your next door neighbor is getting a bag over their head and thrown into a van. And, you know, I think the sad thing is that you're probably cheering this on, right? Ceding your freedoms to assuage these fears that billionaires and billionaires who own social media companies, they're just beating it and incepting it into your mushy ass brains. You're cheering it on. You're excited about it because they don't look like you, right? You're not a trans person. You don't care. You're not Mexican. You don't care. You're not a minority. You don't care. You support the fascist piece of crap in office, so he's not going to come for you. And maybe he isn't yet, but they will. Because, see, the thing that fascists need more than anything else to keep going is an enemy. And first, the enemies will be easy to pick off. They'll be, you know, minorities. They'll be the easiest to cull if people just sit on their hands and say nothing. They'll tell you that the economic issues in this country are due to immigrants. They'll tell you that the legal issues in this country are due to immigrants. They'll tell you safety issues in this country are due to immigrants. They'll tell you taxes that they say are too high are because of immigrants. And if you take all of those statements that I just made, the economics, the safety, the crime, the taxes, it's all because of immigrants. If you replace immigrants with the word Jewish people, I think that rhetoric will trigger memories of another, you know, fascist tyrant. Not in a too far distant past either, right? Like my grandfather fought against that guy. These same people will tell you that the reason for crime is people like George Soros, right? The famous Jewish billionaire. They'll say that he's paying DAs to get into office so that they can set criminals free in pursuit of some, I guess, made up, nebulous socialist goals. And again, this sort of blame and rhetoric is an echo of, our dark past, I guess, on this planet. They'll blame crime and like a wishy-washy concept like moral decay on LGBTQ people. They'll focus your ire on trans people in particular. People who are just trying to exist as human beings. And they'll make you fearful, judgmental, and in opposition to their very existence. They'll literally and metaphorically burn trans research, trans rights, and let trans youth die, all at the altar of a supposed love of life and liberty. Now, I myself have 2 trans family members, 2 people just trying to live regular ass lives. Just normal lives. Just go to work, come home, pay taxes, eat food, hold somebody that they love. This isn't like some wild, far off shit to me. It's not a far off issue for millions of other people, let alone the trans community itself. So where are you guys on this issue? Are you okay with this? Along and after all of these vulnerable minorities, other attacks will come for people like labor organizers, organized labor in general, and people that they call socialists. And the term socialist will, of course, be broadened so far that even like conservatives like Kamala Harris will be included. In fact, Kamala Harris is already labeled like dyed-in-the-wool communist somehow. Anyone of actual leftist political views will be treated as an enemy of the state and arrested and even killed. They've already begun their attack on organized labor and unions, running the Project 2025 playbook that I mentioned before. They will try to break the working class, demonize minorities of all sort, arrest, harm, and kill as many of these people as they can. And they'll do it until they get silence from everybody else or compliance or open support, right? They'll wait for you to cheer for it. And they'll do it all without you saying a goddamn thing if you let them. Please don't let them. And listen, we've all seen all of this before. The blame and then the attacks on immigrants, the attacks on the vulnerable, on organized labor, on leftists. We've all seen it before. First, brown shirts and police are put into the streets to intimidate, arrest, traffic, and disappear the opposition. Then the military is brought in to finish us off. Right now, Trump just released an order for the government to figure out how to use the military to put down civil resistance within our country. The language is couched a bit in the order, but the intent is clear: to put soldiers out there to control the citizenry. It's already starting. In fact, Trump recently, I guess the first one was about a month ago, out of nowhere, he declared a 60-foot wide strip of land along the border between New Mexico and Mexico as a military zone. And it was attached to an active duty military base in Arizona. Why? I have no idea. I don't know how the military works. But a base in Arizona controls a strip of land along the Mexico-New Mexico border. Now, the reason why he did that is because it means that the military now has the ability to arrest people crossing this strip using the same authority they have to arrest people trespassing on an actual military base. Basically, the Trump regime is using a loophole, right, and to involve the military in domestic affairs, which is plainly against the law in this country, simply by declaring swaths of land as military zones or even as military bases. The military operating in the United States proper in this way is clearly illegal, whether they found this loophole or not, due to the Posse Comitatus Act, a law which makes it expressly against the law to use military forces to arrest, search, or detain people in this country. Even more recently, just yesterday, I read this as I record this, it was yesterday. This fascist Trump regime has declared another military zone, a second one, this one extending about 60 miles from El Paso, Texas, along the border. And you should expect more involvement of the military in domestic policing as Trump and his goons simply declare more and more military zones and fake military emergencies to allow them to use military under spurious circumstances. And also, please note how the military leaders simply go along with this and fall in line, all neat and toy soldier-like, despite being themselves well aware of how illegal, or at least questionably legal, all of this is. They will no doubt claim to have been just following orders in the future. This is nothing new. We've seen it before. The third version of a certain former Reich started exactly the same way. And today, we are faced with our own dear leader, Donald Trump. His regime is based on following that now standardized fascist playbook, the bedrock of those beliefs: capitalism, extreme patriotism, xenophobia, racism, empire expansion, global power, and the rebirth of a nation to some glorious, often almost always made up past. They frame it as a working class movement. That's what they tell us. A middle class movement. But this is all a pretense to what's really going on. The point of it is the conservation of the status quo, to keep power where it currently is with the ultra wealthy and the already powerful, to directly and violently fight against the freedom of the citizens by crushing labor, leftists, minorities, and liberals, along with burning the Constitution and all of the rights it grants us along the way. What this play acting hides, the pretending that this is a working class movement, is an ideology bent on subjugation, imperialism, ultra-capitalism, and anti-intellectualism. The structural backbone of all of this is capitalism. That's one of the key problems that we have here. The vectors for this particular disease are xenophobia, racism, and ultranationalism. And you know what? Maybe I would add to that the whole personality cult aspect. I'm not sure. Maybe that gets tied into ultranationalism. But this weird worshipping of Trump the man is really a huge problem, I think, in this country. So a lot of this started in Trump's first term, right? During that first term, we had Asian hatred based off of Trump's rhetoric around China, Wuhan, and the COVID the COVID disease. People that my wife was or is friends and acquaintances with were physically attacked, right? She actually knew a couple people. I saw photos of, they were both women. I saw photos of them after the attacks. It was brutal. And they were attacked because racist Trump fans, inspired by Trump himself, thought that these people were Chinese. They weren't that doesn't really matter. They were just happened to be Asian women. who obviously these racists assumed were Chinese and attacked him, yelling about COVID. Many other people who we obviously don't know were attacked as well, physically or verbally attacked. During the height of COVID, it was really tough out there for Asian folks. And back then, I shared a story about how my amazing wife, who is an Asian woman, she felt the need to wear sunglasses, like big oversized sunglasses, to hide her eyes and as much of her face as she could, so that she would avoid being harassed by these racist Trump fans. And it broke my heart to hear that story when she first told it me, and she's like, the reason why she's wearing these big glasses. And when I told that story on the podcast, I broke down a little bit. I cut a lot of it out because it went on a little long, but I lost it a little bit. It's really tough to hear. It was even harder to actually say it out loud. And over the years, I've thought about that a lot, like probably several times a month, just, driving my truck around. It's like, God damn. Like, my wife's a powerful ass person, but that's something nobody should have to carry, And after that episode of the podcast aired, several people, Trump supporters, they reached out. They left comments, sent text. I got an email saying basically, oh, that sucks that your wife, who we know, feels that she has to do that. And it does, but that was like the entirety of the message. To a person, they maintained their support of Trump despite that. Even though he was the cause, he was the person that made all of this happen, that inspired all of it, but they just kind of sloughed it off in these messages as like, it sucks that happened, and I don't like that Trump talks so mean, but if he talked a little better, it wouldn't be that bad. Right? They were liking what he was doing, but just the optics were off for them. It was fine that he was demonizing China and Chinese people and fomenting hate here in his country, but it was really bad that he was rude about it. Right? He could have been more polite about it. I even saw a few of them eventually go on to deny that Asian people were being attacked. They said it was either exaggerated or one person said it was entirely a hoax. They enjoyed that my wife was, left to feel uncomfortable and forced to hide, but they just wished Trump was a little cagier in his language so he couldn't be blamed. And no, I don't think I'm being too unforgiving with that view. At that time, I began to cut the worst of them out of my life, right? I just stopped talking to them. I just kind of pulled away and never looked back. For ones who seemed less rabid, I made the decision to kind of pull away, drift apart a bit, but not necessarily cut everything off. I guess I was hoping that time would change their views, even as I let that distance grow. Not a total cutoff, but I remained cautious of them. And now here we are again with ICE and other federal pigs blackbagging people off the street and trafficking them to another country, a concentration camp in another country. And all those same people remain silent. They remain silent as Trump invokes the military to enforce his rule. And again, Second Amendment Elmer Fudd's out there just pointing their guns at, imagined immigrants and like scary trans people who are just working at Starbucks or whatever, instead of the actual real threat, which is their Lord and Savior, fascist Trump. Now, here we are again with Trump creating even more hate, even more danger for the vulnerable people out there, for minorities. And now my wife is feeling like she needs to collect her papers her documents, her passport, stuff like that, to copy, to have on her, to carry around, to have enough paperwork on her person so that if she's bothered by, these ice pigs, that she can prove, hopefully, that she belongs in this country because she's not white and she may have to deal with this. Like, this is something literally happening in my house right now. In the United States, my wife is literally gathering her papers to more comfortably walk down the street as a non-white person in the U.S. because this fascist loser Donald Trump is letting his brown shirts loose on the populace. And listen, to those same people who sent me messages before, or maybe there's new people now, I don't want any texts or phone calls from you people. I don't want this pathetic sorry, she feels that way, but I still support Trump nonsense. Save it. Spare my wife too. She doesn't need it. We and everybody else who's affected by these things, we already see you. You've already been clocked. It's cool. Just stay in your hole. Right? So, first, these shitbags made my wife hide her eyes. Now she has to carry papers to feel safe. And even that safety is in question because in Trump's fascist America, full-ass citizens are being arrested. They're being rounded up by the disgusting hogs that we call police. And if you're okay with what's going on right now, then you're just fascists. You're in support of fascism. Why beat around the bush? Why like couch our language? Let's just say it, right? If you're not actively against it, then you're supporting it. Sorry, I was distracted. There's like a stink bug walking on my camera. I thought he was gonna go across. I thought he was gonna go across the lens. Uh, uh, and listen, by not like being actively against it, I'm not saying that you need to be out there punching Nazis, right? I'm not out there on the streets bayoneting fascists, though I hope I'll be strong enough if it comes to that. Uh, all I'm really saying is, say something. Just get out there. Get get get. Sorry about that. That bug was just going to walk in front of my camera. Just say something. Just say that you don't like it. Resist in some way at all. Just say it's wrong. I mean, if you voted for Trump and you don't like what's going on, just say, I don't support that guy anymore. It's gone too far. That's it. I'm not looking for you to take up arms. Just revoke your support of a fascist monster and his regime. That's it. It's not even that big of an ask. Right? This guy's shredding the Constitution like right in front of your face. And all you like right-wing and centrist dorks, you claim to love it so much, but you say nothing while it happens. He's ordering state thug pigs to kidnap people in this country and send them to death camps and slave labor in El Salvador. He's ignoring court orders to stop. His Justice Department is telling their street-level thugs to ignore the Fourth Amendment and enter and search our homes against our will with no warrants. They're deporting people for speaking words that they don't like and ignoring the First Amendment. And the people doing this stuff, right? The ICE agents, the Customs and Border Patrol, the FBI, They're doing it with gusto. They're these guys are not questioning a single thing. And this is why we always say ACAB. All cops are bastards. It's because when it comes time to use the immense powers that we grant them as police, they use that power to do illegal things to powerless people. That's their whole MO. And when they get the green light to do it up like above board, right? To do illegal shit openly, these pigs just lace up those jackboot laces just a little bit tighter, and they holster those guns just a little bit looser, and they go after everybody that they can find, and they hurt them. Every ICE agent, every police agent of like any agency, any group of cops, they know that it's illegal to enter your home without a warrant. They know it. They're all taught this. They know it. Or I guess exigent circumstances as well, but that's a whole other issue. This isn't what we're talking about. But once anybody with authority tells them, like anybody at all says, hey, guess what? No warrants. Don't worry about the warrants at all. Just kick doors. They fucking go for it. They do it. And they do it with big smiles on their faces. They're like, yeah, now it's our time, baby. They love to hurt people. If they didn't love to hurt people, they wouldn't wake up every morning and put that badge on their chest and go out on the streets and hurt people every single day. They are pigs, the entire lot of them. Every single one. Swine, hogs, pigs, however you want to, whatever term you want to use. These rabid hogs are being let off the leash and proving that every call of ACAB over the past, I don't know how long that term's been around, 80 years, 100 years, they've all been like ringing bells of veracity. So just remember, when all of this is over, that these pigs claiming I was just following orders, that argument has been heard before to justify brutality beyond measure, and it will be used again here in this country. I absolutely guarantee that we will hear it. And listen, I don't care if you're convinced by the use of like 18th century laws to justify all of this bullcrap. We can't be so law-brained that we fail to understand what's right and what's wrong and what's just and what's unjust and what we should and should not do to people. If you buy the use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act as a way to legally justify these arrests and human trafficking to foreign concentration camps, then you've just succumbed to either the personality cult of Trump, who can do no wrong in your eyes, you've become an actual fascist, or, at best, you've just let these people manipulate your law-loving brain into thinking that this is okay. And this isn't the first time in history that, it was the law is that, what was used to justify heinous crimes against minorities, against the weak, against the populace. And it won't be the last time either. But at least right now, we can know better before it gets even more out of hand. Like we know right now how bad this is, and you stay silent. Say something. Now, like a lot of people, when I was younger, right, I'd be watching the History Channel, watching World War II documentaries. And, as an 8-year-old or whatever, I'd be watching and thinking, like, where were all the good people? Where were they at during these horrible times? How did this happen? And, it was hard to understand as a young person watching historians tell me just how smoothly it happened. And I realized that there was resistance, that there was strong resistance in some cases, but it happened pretty smoothly and pretty quickly when we're talking about like how heinous these things were. And now as a 48-year-old, I know how it happened. Prominent good people, the loudest people, those who openly resisted fascism, they would get arrested, disappeared, killed, locked away, right? And the rest started to be quiet, started to sit on their hands and just accept things. Now, obviously, here in this house at least, we like to celebrate the actual resistance, the ones who resisted in various ways, right? I'm talking about World War II now, with sabotage, spying, killing Nazis, and so on, right? These were the best and the bravest people. And also, in our current times, we celebrate the resistance in various countries all around the world, but especially against genocide in Gaza. Now, the bad people back then, those who truly supported or just shut their mouths and got by because, well, it wasn't them. The people who just went with it, right? They watched. They just watched. And how much now are you willing to watch? How much horror are you willing to see broadcast on your TV before you do so little as say, I don't support this person anymore, or even just, I don't like what's going on? What will it take for you to say that out loud? How many will need to be harmed or killed for you to speak out? Does it have to affect you directly, your family, your children, your friends, your neighborhood? How close does the terror have to get before you're willing to scream? If you wait too long, nobody will hear you, right? There's a reason why that First They Came For poem is so famous and has been heard a million times by everybody, right? It's not because it's some glorious use of language and flowery, multiple rhymes per line kind of whatever poem. It's because it's a goddamn warning, right? Go back and read it again. It means something. So this next question I ask, whoever's made it this far, but especially to anybody I personally know who has made it this far. The question is this: where in all of this do you people stand? For all those who aren't standing with me, who aren't in agreement with me, why? Like, what is it? What's the thing? Are you okay with all of this because money? Because Trump promised to make that line go up? Is that it? You're willing to exchange lives, freedom, justice, rights, like our rights, to make a line incline? Is that the whole thing? Right? You want eggs under $3 a dozen again? What is it? Is it purely financial? Right? You're selling out my family members and friends and hundreds of millions of other people because what? For stock gains? Is that where you're at? Like, if it is, how do you sleep and how do you look at yourself in the mirror? How do you do it? I couldn't. And for all of those who hate all of this and who want it to stop, but remain quiet out of a genuine fear, I get it. I do. It's a scary time. And if you're one of the people who are most likely to be affected by this, I totally get not putting your neck out there. I wish more people would. I think we'd be served with hearing more diverse voices. But listen, I understand. It's genuinely a scary time. I'll absolutely give you that grace. Speaking out is always hard no matter what. I mean, even me, I'm not comfortable doing stuff like this. I'm not an incredibly brave person. Uh, this is hard to do if I'm being honest. I put this episode off like probably a month because it makes me nervous and anxious just to say, say stuff like this, right? I'm talking to people. I know people who are going to watch this and they're going to be like, wow, this guy's a real a-hole. He's calling me out, maybe. And maybe I am. But, as scary as it is, I just think it's something that we have to do as human beings. And I'll even pass a little bit of grace along to some of the people who kind of ignore what's going on and just kind of go about their lives. For the people who it's just too much for, who are burnt out, for the people who have been so screwed over for so long that they kind of check out, I wish you'd pay attention. I hope you would. But I can also understand how you feel. If you made it this far, if you're one of those people, I hope you'll at least consider taking all of this a little bit more seriously, at least if you can. However, for all of those who are quiet right now because they either just don't care or maybe they're scared to say that they actually like what's going on, you guys belong in the same group as all those people who wholeheartedly support this with their MAGA hats on and their Trump flags. All the people supporting this sickening fascist movement. Y'all can go get fucked. I don't respect you. Not even a little bit. I don't want to hear it. Lose my number. Don't text. Don't holler. Right? I don't want to hear it. And yes, if you're wondering, I will absolutely 100% all the time let politics end friendships. I'll let it end acquaintances and even like family ties. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. There are certain lines that we should never let ourselves cross and that we should never let other people cross without saying something. If you're okay with being if you're okay with people being kidnapped and sent to El Salvador to CCOT, if you're okay with 5-year-olds defending themselves in deportation hearings, if you're okay with judges being arrested for trying to do their jobs, if you're okay with imperial aggression, the military rolling out against the citizenry of this country, the military being used as domestic police, if you're okay with sieg-heiling, racist, eugenics-obsessed billionaires destroying the government that's supposed to support our society, if you're okay with the xenophobia, the racism, the ultra-capitalism, the suppression, the violence, the kidnapping, and the state pig violence enacted against people in this country, then we are so fundamentally opposed that I'm not sure that there's anything left to salvage. And I guess to end this on a more personal note, a more visceral note, if you're okay with my family members being attacked because of how they decide to identify or who they decide to sleep with, if you're okay with my wife having to hide her face from racist shitbags and carry papers on her person to prove she belongs in this country, then you and I just don't need to speak anymore. It's better for all of us at this point. Everybody who falls in that last category, I guess you can holler back when you find your humanity and not a second before. That's it. I'll end it here. Thank you. I love most of you. Thank you.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.